Hello, Facebook. Good morning. Good morning. It's Ingrid here with Biz Talk Tuesday. It is Tuesday morning, and I am quickly going to share this in the Facebook group. I wish there was a way I could do this that didn't involve me looking down, but bear with me, and it'll give people a wee minute to get on anyway, and hopefully they will and join me live. How is things at in your part of the world? If it is, there I am. I would love to hear what you're up to. If there's anything interesting happening, it's Maysember over here, which is so funny because Maysember, it's just crazy busy, like May, like December, only now it's May, because with the kids and getting out of school and whatnot, there's a million things that we are thinking of doing. So what I wanted to talk to you about, in case you don't know me, my name is Ingrid Owens. I'm a business and marketing coach for creative entrepreneurs. And if you are joining me live, I'd really appreciate it if you'd just say hi in the comments so that I know that you're watching, and let me know where you are in the world this morning. That would be great. My camera's all off today, but that's okay. So our topic for today was inspired by a paperweight that I have. And actually, this paperweight was given to me by my husband, I think actually before we got married. And it's something that sat on my desk. Now, sometimes it gets covered up and I forget about it because I really forget about the paperweight and I forget about the sentiments. But it's always been there. It's always on some part of my desk. And the paperweight reads, "What would you attempt to do if you knew you could not fail?" And that whole concept of knowing what you would do if failure wasn't an option is so enlightening to me, because it really highlights the fact that a lot of times, quite often as an entrepreneur and in many other parts of our life, actually, especially as a creative, it's fear that is holding us back from doing the thing that we want to do. It might not even be a case of fear. We might not even realize it. We might not be putting our work up for sale or doing anything like that. But even just in the group, like the Take 52 group, which I run over the Camera Shy Take 52 challenge, that fear that we experience in putting our work out there in front of everybody, if you've never done it before, can be debilitating and can be the thing that stops us from doing what we need to do. And as an entrepreneur, or as somebody who wants to be an entrepreneur, fear can really stop us and not help let us move forward. And I got to tell you that, even somebody who has had a little bit of success, each time you reach a new level in your business, fear shows itself in a completely different way. So it's something that we constantly have to monitor and we constantly have to be thinking about as an entrepreneur. And so what I wanted to talk to you today about was 3 ways that we can deal with this fear, so that we can attempt to do all the things in spite of it, right? So that we knew, like, if failure is not an option, then how are we going to approach things? And when we come from that perspective, we can do great things. So the first thing is really calling a spade and calling fear out for what it actually is. So I am very guilty of this, and I've had a conversation with my coach recently about this exact same thing, which is I blame all of the other things for not doing what I'm supposed to be doing or what I need to be doing to move my business forward. Sometimes. So what I have, I have all the excuses. I'm too busy. I don't have enough time. I'm overwhelmed. I've got so much stuff going on. Right? All of the excuses and all of the stories. And if you've ever worked with a coach, that's the first thing they'll call you on is your stories, because they are stories. When you hear yourself saying them enough times, you realize that that is true. And this is a very big ding, 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 ding indicator that there's fear behind all of the stories. So if you're somebody who's thinking about starting a business, but yet you hear all of the excuses, and there's always a reason why you're not doing it, and it could be a legitimate reason. And I mean, a legitimate reason like, I just don't have enough time. Yeah, but like, have you really, have you tried slotting in extra time in the morning? Or what are you prioritizing your time doing? Maybe you should be working on something else. Be very careful about that, and go in and look, is it really a fear that's holding you back? Is it fear from showing up, putting yourself out there, putting your work out there, that is actually the reason why you're not doing all the things? So I've had this experience, like I say, several times, and even just recently, um, I was just so busy, right? It's all the things, I'm just so busy, there's so much going on. But actually, that wasn't really the reason. And some of the tools that you can work through in, discovering this, very simply, you can, of course, coach with somebody one to one if that is something that you're interested in doing. Somebody like myself will coach my clients through that sort of thing. Or the one of the easiest tools that we have is a journal, a pen and paper. I like to use a fancy journal, not really a notebook. And I will write down these stories, and I journal and talk myself through them. Like, okay, so you don't have time. Is that really true? Like, how is that showing up? Is that working for you? That story working for you? And I just kind of dig a little deeper, scratch the surface, to see, what is that actual fear? Is it fear? And what is the actual fear of? And then just questioning that until you see that that is, doesn't make sense, because invariably it doesn't. And, it's just your brain. Again, we talked about this last week, your brain trying to keep you safe, right? So being able to say, okay, no, we're going to take that like safety thing. It's okay. We are not afraid. We don't need to be afraid. Nobody's going to eat you. We have this saying in our house, like when we're afraid of doing something, like, they're not going to eat you. Nobody is eating anybody because they haven't done well at, whatever it is. So journal around that, or get coached around that, but don't let those stories hold you back. And this is really, really pertinent. If you find yourself in the same pattern, repeating a lot all the time, that you've got the same pattern going on all the time about why something's not working out for you, typically there's a fear thing it's rooted in fear, in some sort of fear. So call it what it is, name and shame, and then let's move on. Okay. The second thing that might be holding you back from attempting what you could do if you couldn't fail, is actually a gap in your knowledge. And we again briefly talked about this last week, that there quite often is a fear of the unknown, right? It's fear in another way, but we don't know what we don't know, and we don't, we're afraid to try something new because we don't know what is involved. So just by getting really specific on the actions involved in doing what you need to do can really be help you move you forward. Like, so for example, if you wanted to open an Etsy store, or you wanted to even just sell your stuff online, you might not know how to begin doing that. But when you do a little bit of research, talking to people, like, we live in the age of the internet. All we have to do is type it into Google, and you'll have a plethora of ideas and solutions to your problem and how you're going to fix it. So if you want to sell online, you could do Etsy, you could do a Shopify site, you could, drop ships your stuff to somebody else. There's so many different ways you can do it. So that knowledge can help amend the fear. But again, get out of the pattern of the story, start writing down the gaps in your knowledge, and then figure out how you're going to even how you're going to solve them, but even calendar it in. Okay, today I'm going to spend an hour researching websites, or today I'm going to spend an hour researching Etsy. And you might realize then, okay, well, that isn't a big deal. I can do that. Maybe I need to have this, this, and this in place before I do that, but now I have a plan, right? So you can start to make that plan for yourself. And again, that's something as a coach that I work my students through and with, hold them accountable and kind of guide them through the steps. And of course, when you're working with a coach, you have the benefit of working with somebody that's kind of walked that path before you. So there's always shortcuts, but you know, you can still do it obviously all on your own, but knowledge will really help you to move ahead in that regard. And the third thing that I want to say to you and just to really encourage you is to take those baby steps. So just like when you have a baby or a toddler and they are learning how to walk, you know, you don't just throw them out in the mall and say, okay, have fun. You know, we take tiny itty bitty baby steps and eventually, you know, they grow into bigger steps and they can achieve what they need to achieve. So don't underestimate the power of small actions towards a bigger goal. Like you might feel like, oh, well, you know, what's the point in me even trying? Like I've got this big, hairy, audacious goal that I'm trying to reach and, you know, I just don't have the time or I can't fit it all in or, you know, it's not for me right now. But actually, if you're doing a little tiny bit, if all you can give yourself is an hour or 45 minutes every day to work on it, you can actually make a lot of progress towards achieving that goal. So baby steps can actually add up to something that is really big. But again, the stories will keep you stuck if you're not dealing with that. So definitely the first step is to get clear on those stories, get clear on what the fear is exactly that's holding you back. Then figure out the gaps in your knowledge, figure out where it is that you need some more help or you need to learn. And don't get stuck in a place of I've got to like learn all the things or go back to college or do an MBA to do it, be realistic and like what's the minimum amount of knowledge that I need to take this and make this a success, right? You can always learn as you go. So don't fall into that learning path too. Quite often that's a very typical thing that I see. And thirdly, those baby steps, small incremental steps on a consistent basis make big goals, and that is huge for anybody, especially if you're trying to start a business and you're already in a job, or you're maybe you're committed to home, to family or whatever. You don't have we don't have this perfect world of all this time, right? We just have to kind of find those pockets of time, but we actually can do something with that. And if you're ever interested in doing that from a productivity standpoint, there is a technique called the Pomodoro technique where you set a timer. I think it's for 25 minutes, and you just get laser focused on what you need to achieve in that 25 minutes. And it could be a task such as, research all of the ways to sell online. But just give yourself 25 minutes. Don't get stuck in the research phase forever. And then give yourself a break, 5 minutes, and then come back and do the next task. And it is amazing how much work you can get knocked out when you use that technique. I've done it in the past and actually have been reminded to get back and to do it again because, again, with the overwhelm, all of that comes, I don't have enough time to get anything done. But actually, when you set your mind to it and let go of the perfection, you can get a lot done. Linda says, oh, there's some comments here that are only coming up now. Hey, Linda. Sorry, I didn't even see you were on here. So Linda says she falls into the I need to know it all first. Yes, that's that's a very realistic thing. It's very common. People do that all the time. But, if we did that, we have to remind ourselves, first of all, especially if you're in the online space, it moves so fast that it's really hard to know it all first, because we don't really know what it's going to be like in 6 months. And by the time you end up, learning about one strategy or one tactic, the thing could have changed, so it's important to keep moving, even if it's in small steps, and learn as you go, and be flexible and be able to pivot and adapt as things change. And I think that's one of the most important things to know and learn about being an entrepreneur, is that you need to be able to pivot and change very quickly. You can't just like kind of say, well, I learned it to do it this way and now it's completely different, so I give up. Like, you can't do that. The essence is still the same of business. It always will be, about getting the right people in front of your right good quality product and keeping them there. That's never changed. The way things work has changed. Like the way that we talk to people, like I'm talking to you here online, like that's different obviously than what it could have been. This wasn't even possible, you know 2 years ago. I think maybe even Facebook Lives, we weren't doing them. So things will change, but you've got to be able to move fast. And what they also say is fail fast. So try something. If it doesn't work, at least you say you've tried it, check, okay, let me change and do something else. So failing fast is really, really important to that too. So if anybody has any questions, again, go ahead and write them in the chat box. If you're watching this on the replay, I hope I'm still live. Yes, I am. I wasn't sure. If you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and use the hashtag replay and ask your comment there too. I'd be happy to answer and chat to you about that. Again, I'm Ingrid Owens, and I am opening up some spots in a small group coaching program that is happening in June. And I also have some room available for some one-on-one students, for one-on-one clients. If that is something that you're interested in, I would love to get on a call with you and talk to you about how that process works. I will put that link in under the video here as well. And I will see you next Tuesday, and actually maybe even before. I'm going to try and get on here a little bit more regularly. I might have to do it without makeup and all that, which doesn't matter, does it really? Doesn't really matter. The information coming out is all still the same. So anyway, thank you for joining me live as always, and have a great week, and I will talk to you soon.